Alright, I am in the process of putting together this scope review here for the Hi-Lux Pentalux. This is the scope that you guys have seen me shooting recently on the 6 Creed here, the same scope that allowed me to take this thing out to the 2,060 yards and all that. And I've been really impressed with how it tracked right off the bat, but I had not yet to do a actual tall target or tracking test to make sure that the numbers actually track true. And part of doing a scope review is obviously doing a tracking test. So because I was getting ready to do the tracking test for the scope review, I figured this is a perfect time to show you guys my method of doing a tracking test. There's a few different methods to making sure a scope tracks true, and this is the one that I've found that I can do, that I know 100% that it is exactly right. So what I'm going to show you guys is my method on making sure a scope actually tracks true. Lots of scopes, even high-end scopes, will have some variation in their tracking, whether it be 1, 2, 3, or even 5%. And knowing that is essential, especially when dialing up 10 or 12 mils, which is 120 clicks, to know that you are getting the exact right amount of elevation out of each click. So the way I set a tracking test up, now this one is, we're going to do this at 50 yards for a couple of reasons. The 50 yards is easier for me to video through the scope. I don't have yet. I'm actually looking at getting a side shot scope cam. But in the meantime, my method of videoing through the scope is much more crude than that, so I was able to get a good video through it, but it is not as high a quality as I would like it to be, and especially not as high a quality as it would be if I had the proper equipment for this. So at 50 yards, it's definitely much more capable of seeing through the scope on the video to make sure that you can tell that it is tracking to the right amount. And 50 yards is also half of 100, which we just cut the numbers directly in half for our tracking test. So I use a yardstick, and I'm going to show you guys exactly how I hang it, exactly how I make sure that it is 100% true, hung completely vertically, and completely level. So this is the tracking test for the Hi-Lux Pentalux. Really happy with this scope overall. Be on the lookout for the full review that will be out here in the very near future. So I hope you guys enjoy this. Hope this is helpful if you guys are trying to figure out how to make sure that your scope is tracking true and to what percentage it is tracking true. This is a great method for doing that. So I hope this is helpful. See you guys next time. I'm out. Alright, so this is our truth stick. So we are set up at 50 yards, which is like where I like to set this up at. And the way this works is I have it hanging. This is obviously just a yardstick, metal yardstick hanging from a piece of string with a plumb line hung right down the center of it to make sure that the yardstick is hanging completely true. And then once we make sure the entire thing is hanging completely true, check it with a level just to double check that the yardstick is hanging true and the plumb line running down the center of it is hanging true. Then once I make sure all of that, I will secure it at the bottom here with a little garden stick. So I secure the plumb line and the yardstick, so that way in case wind blows or something like that, it's not throwing my truth stick off. Then once we have our truth stick set up, we mark our 36-inch mark, or you can have it upside down and do 1 inch. It doesn't really matter. So we will zero the scope for our tracking test at the 36-inch mark and dial straight up. So we're going to do 10 with the milliradian scope with the Pentalux here. We're going to do 10 mils exactly. So we're going to every 5 mils at 50 yards. So this is my 100-yard range. You guys see my 100-yard target back there. So at 50 yards, every 5 mils will be 9 inches with a mil scope. So at the first mark here, I'll put a mark at the 27-inch mark, which is 9 inches, and then 9 inches from that at 18 inches. So that should be 10 mils exactly at 50 yards. So that will be 100 clicks at 10 mils. So each mil or each click will be 1%. So that is a good way to tell exactly what percentage you are tracking to. So if it takes 98 clicks to get to that point, or if at 98 clicks you are not, or at 100 clicks you are still 0.2 of a mil away, then you know know your scope is only tracking to 98%. So beyond that, if you are doing this with a MOA scope, it works the same way. You just do a little bit different math. So with an MOA scope, we're going to zero our scope, same spot here at the 36-inch mark. And then we're going to, instead of doing every 9 inches, we are going to put a mark at every 10.5 inches. So the first mark we'll put at 10.5 inches, and then the second mark we'll put at 21 inches. So what that is that is 20 MOA. So if we zero here with an MOA scope on the 36-inch mark and dial exactly 10 minutes of, or 20 minutes of angle, that should put us at 10.5 inches, and then 20 more minutes of angle, 40 total, should put us down at the 21-inch mark. And then you just have to do the math for your percentages a little different. So at the 20 MOA mark, that should be 1/4. If you're doing a 1/4 MOA per click at 20 minutes, that's going to be 80 clicks. So 80 broke down into percent of 100 is 1 1/4. So then when you double that and go 40 MOA, you would just cut that 1 1/4 in half, and that is your percentages. So this is the True Stick. We're going to do the tracking test for the Hi-Lux Pentalux and show you guys how we do a tracking test and how it all works. Alright, so tracking test with the Hi-Lux Pentalux. There is 5 mils, dead on. Go straight down to 10. $10 That is absolute perfect 100% tracking. I'll take it back. Back at 0. So that is 100 clicks, back up to 0, and absolutely no deviation in the tracking. That's pretty darn good for a scope that is just under $600. Alright, so there you have it. That is how I set up my tracking test. That is the way that I found that I feel completely comfortable in knowing, with the plumb line and the yardstick both hanging, and then checking with the level, that everything is hanging completely true, and that when I'm tracking up and down, that I am moving exactly along the perfect vertical axis. So that is the way that I do it. Like I said, there's other ways to do it, but that's the way that I have found that I can be 100% positive that everything is moving in the right direction. So beyond that, I was really impressed with the Pentalux here and the fact that it tracked to 100%. I will say that since I have set the True Stick up, it's been a while since I've messed with one, that I've been testing a number of my scopes, and out of all my scopes, and I have some that cost a significantly higher amount, but for a $575 scope, it is really impressive that this thing tracked to 100%, because I have scopes that cost quite a bit more, and none of them actually passed to exactly 100%. So I hope this was helpful. I hope you guys are trying to figure out exactly what your guys' scopes are tracking to. This is something that you guys can do at home in your backyard to confirm the percentage that your scope is tracking to. So hope this was helpful. See you guys next time. I'm out.